There's a strange magnetism to abandoned places, isn't there? A silent invitation. We see a collapsing roof, a shattered window, a door hanging off its hinges, and we feel a pull. We want to know the story etched in the decay. We call ourselves urban explorers, photographers, thrill seekers. We tell ourselves we're just looking, but sometimes you find more than just dust and memories. Sometimes the silence isn't empty, it's waiting. I used to be one of those people. I thought I was just documenting forgotten history. Now I know that some places aren't just abandoned. They're holding their breath. These are 3 stories from my collection. Stories I can't explain, from places I wish I'd never gone. Story 1. The Sanatorium on the Ridge. The first place was an old tuberculosis sanatorium, perched on a lonely ridge overlooking a valley. Locals called it the Breather's End, a grim name for a grim place. It had been empty for 60 years. My goal was simple: get some atmospheric shots of the main ward before sundown. The air inside was thick, heavy. You could almost taste the decades of stale air and something else, something medicinal, like antiseptic that had soaked into the very walls. I moved through the lobby, my footsteps echoing unnaturally loud in the vast space. Dust motes danced in the beams of my flashlight like tiny ghosts. I made my way to the 3rd floor, the long-term care ward. This was where the most desperate cases were kept. The hallway was a corridor of peeling paint and open doorways, each one a black mouth leading to a forgotten room. That's when I heard it, a sound from the floor above me, a slow rhythmic squeaking, like a single rusty wheel turning. Squeak, pause, squeak, pause. My blood went cold. I froze, straining to listen. It couldn't be the wind. The sound was too deliberate, too rhythmic. It sounded like a wheelchair being pushed slowly across the floor. I told myself it was my imagination, an old building settling. But a part of me, the primal terrified part, knew better. I raised my camera, trying to focus on my task, my hands shaking slightly. I took a photo down the long, dark hallway. When the flash went off, it illuminated the end of the hall for a split second, and I saw it. An old, rusted wheelchair. It was sitting there, in the middle of the corridor, facing me. I hadn't noticed it on my way up. I would have. You don't miss something like that. My heart hammered against my ribs. It had to have been there all along, right? I was just spooked, my mind playing tricks. I swallowed hard and took another step forward. Then came a single ragged cough, wet, close, and undeniably human. It came from one of the dark rooms to the left. I didn't scream. I didn't even breathe. The sound wasn't an echo. It was present. It was real. It was the sound of sick lungs, of someone struggling for air, right there in the dark. I didn't wait for a second cough. I turned and ran. I didn't stop running until I was back in my car, gasping for air, my own lungs burning. I never went back to get my tripod. To this day, I can't shake the feeling that the sanatorium isn't empty. It's just full of patients who never checked out. Story 2. The Whispering Schoolhouse. The second story takes place in the middle of nowhere, surrounded by miles of flat, empty farmland. A one-room schoolhouse from the late 1800s. It was a beautiful, tragic sight. I was there on assignment for a photography project on rural decay. From the outside, it was peaceful, lonely. The door was unlocked, hanging ajar. Inside, everything was covered in a thick blanket of dust. Tiny desks were still arranged in neat rows. On the chalkboard, you could still see the faint, ghostly outlines of a cursive lesson. I I started setting up my gear, the only sounds being the click of my camera shutter and the wind sighing outside. But after about 20 minutes, another sound began to weave its way in. Faint, overlapping whispers, indecipherable, like children telling secrets from far away. At first, I dismissed it, the wind playing tricks with the broken window panes, but it was persistent, a soft, sibilant murmur that seemed to come from all around me. I tried to ignore it, focusing on framing a shot of the teacher's desk. I looked out the window. The old swing set, the one with the rusted chains, was moving. Both swings, back and forth, in perfect silent unison. There was wind, yes, but not enough to do that. Not in perfect sync. A chill, completely separate from the autumn air, crawled up my spine. I decided I had enough photos. As I was packing up my camera bag, I turned my back on the chalkboard for maybe 10 seconds to change a lens. When I turned back, something was different. In the thick dust on the chalkboard, a single word had been traced. It wasn't there before. I would have seen it. The letters were wobbly, childlike. It said, "Stay." My bag dropped from my hands. All the air left my lungs. The whispers suddenly felt closer, more distinct, as if the children had just moved to the desks right behind me. I didn't dare turn around. I grabbed my camera and ran out the door. As I fumbled with my car keys, I risked one last glance back at the schoolhouse. In the dark opening of the doorway, I saw a shape. Small, child-sized, and utterly black, like a hole cut out of the world. It just stood there, watching me. I don't know if it was one of them, or if it was warning me. I don't care. I just know that whatever is in that schoolhouse, it wants company. Story 3. The Miner's Road. This last one. This one still gives me nightmares. It didn't happen in a building. It happened on a road. An old, unpaved service road that cut through the mountains, once used by a mining company that had gone bust after a catastrophic collapse in the 1940s. I was working a late shift and my usual road home was blocked by an accident. The GPS suggested this shortcut. A terrible, terrible idea. It was pitch black, the forest pressing in on both sides. My headlights were the only thing that existed in the world. After about 10 minutes, my car started to sputter. The engine coughed, the lights flickered. Classic horror movie stuff. I was in the middle of nowhere with no cell service. As I was coasting, trying to keep the car alive, my headlights caught someone on the side of the road. It was a man. He was tall and gaunt, dressed in old-fashioned work clothes, overalls, heavy boots. He was holding an old lantern, the kind with a real flame inside. He just stood there, motionless, his face obscured by the shadow of a wide-brimmed hat. I slowed down, thinking he needed help, but something felt wrong, deeply wrong. A wave of pure dread washed over me. I pressed the accelerator, and my car thankfully lurched forward. I passed him, my eyes locked on my rearview mirror. He didn't move, just stood there, watching me go. I let out a breath I didn't realize I'd been holding. A few minutes later, I rounded a sharp bend, and my heart stopped. He was there again, standing by the side of the road, holding the lantern. It was impossible. I'd left him miles back. There was no way he could have gotten ahead of me. I floored it, the engine screaming in protest. I didn't look back. Bend after bend, my headlights would cut through the darkness, and for a terrifying instant, they'd find him. Always ahead, always waiting. He wasn't chasing me. He was preceding me. Then the inevitable happened. My car sputtered one last time and died. Silence. Complete suffocating silence. I sat there paralyzed, hands gripping the steering wheel. I checked my mirrors. Nothing. Just blackness. Maybe it was over. Maybe I'd imagined it. Then I heard a soft, rhythmic tap, tap, tap on the rear window of the car. I slowly lifted my gaze to the rearview mirror. The lantern light filled the frame, and behind it, a face, or what was left of one. The skin was pale, like clay, and the eyes were just dark, empty sockets. The face of a man who had been buried in the dark for a very, very long time. He tapped on the glass again, a single bony finger. I screamed. I threw the door open and ran into the black woods. I didn't care about the branches scratching my face, the roots tripping me up. I just ran from that tapping, from that empty gaze. I ran until I hit paved road and flagged down a trucker who probably thought I was insane. I never found out what happened to my car. I never went back. I don't know what that thing on the road wanted. Did it want help? Did it want a ride? Or did it just want to show me the darkness it came from? 3 places, 3 stories. They started as trips to document forgotten things, and they ended with me becoming one, a person haunted by echoes. So the next time you see an old abandoned place and feel that pull, that silent invitation, ask yourself what's waiting inside and what happens if, this time, the door closes behind you.